All That Matters. Written by Arsers. Read by Arashi. Kokichiyama, the ultimate supreme leader, was how he first introduced himself, and at first she assumed he was just messing with her. With how many times he proclaimed he was a liar, it was basically a given, and she shrugged it off and went on with her day. Still curious, and determined to make friends with her desk partner, she approached him at lunch, a bit hesitantly. "Hey, Kokichi." The boy in question looked up, humming in acknowledgement. "If you really are a supreme leader, what do you do?" she asked, sitting across from him in some show of determination, like she'd figure him out by the end of lunch. Kokichi frowned, folding his arms and looking away. "I knew you wouldn't believe me. I thought we were desk partners, Kaede." Sighing as if she were already tired of his antics, she rolled her eyes. "I mean, you know how crazy it sounds, don't you?" she said, taking a bite of her food. "Yeah, it's so unbelievable, no one looks into it, so we get away with everything." He shrugged, examining his fingernails lazily. Kaede huffed. "More like because it's common sense." Kokichi's expression seemed to dull to something like annoyance, and Kaede thought that this was probably the most genuine expression she'd seen from him. "If you were never taught to stick a fork in the toaster, would you know it'd kill you?" he began, and she blinked in pure confusion. No, I guess..." "So," he continued through a mouthful of rice, "your common sense would be that you can stick a fork in a toaster safely, but obviously, another person's common sense is that sticking a fork in a toaster will kill you." Kaede frowned, unsure of what any of this meant. Was he just messing with her again? "Well, it's a fact that it'll kill you, so it would be wrong for that to be my common sense in the first place." "So, is that still what you believe, and therefore it's your common sense? Why trust your common sense if it's based entirely around your perception?" Kokichi finished, leaving Kaede to stare at him in complete befuddlement while he ate his lunch calmly. I don't... She looked down at her lap, adjusting her skirt as she thought about how she could possibly reply to that. "Well, anyhow, you should have been given the ultimate of ultimate liar," Kaede said, finally, shrugging as she returned her attention to Kokichi, who was staring at her intently. He laughed at her response and tilted his head. "Yeah, maybe I should have." After that interaction, Kaede wasn't entirely sure what to make of him. She couldn't stop thinking about what he'd said, what he'd meant. Was he offended? Kaede certainly wouldn't be happy if someone questioned the validity of her ultimate, after all. It was a huge part of who she was. "Hey, wake up, sleepyhead!" Kaede woke with a start, jolting upwards, almost knocking into someone with how aggressively she jumped. Looking over at them, she realized it was Kokichi, waking her up in the middle of class. "What? You must have been planning my assassination attempt all night, huh? You fell asleep right as class started," he interrupted with a giggle. She blanked, staring at Kokichi drowsily. Hello? Earth to Kaede!" Kokichi scoffed rudely, knocking on her forehead impatiently. "Geez, sorry. I was up all night practicing the sonata," Kaede mumbled, shaking her head. "Wow, you must be really committed, huh? I don't even have to work on my ultimate. My 10,000 members do everything for me. To be honest with you, Kaede, I'm not cut out to be an ultimate. I actually forged my acceptance letter." He sighed gloomily, slumping in his chair. "No way. Hope's Peak would know," Kaede amended curtly, as if it was second nature. His expression went blank. "Yep, you caught me. There really is no fooling you, is there, ultimate pianist?" he said flatly, turning in his desk to face the teacher. She huffed. What was that all about? She almost followed his actions, before a sudden realization came to her. He really was offended about the ultimate thing. Reaching out to tug on his sleeve, Kokichi turned to her before her fingers met the cloth. "What? Gonna brag about getting into Hope's Peak fair and square, and even after I trusted you with my confession?" He pouted in obvious faux sadness. No. Actually, I wanted to say sorry for doubting your ultimate," Kaede asserted, dropping her hand to her lap. Kokichi raised a brow, looking almost surprised, and then he smiled. I'll definitely consider putting you on the waiting list. There's a lot of people who want to be spared from my wrath. Usually they beg me on their knees, but I guess since we're friends, this is okay too." Kaede rolled her eyes, turning away from him, mostly to hide her smile. She knew it didn't work, though, because Kokichi snickered and went back to doodling in his sketchbook. It seemed she managed to cheer him up. She still didn't quite get him, but she knew he was her friend. That's all that mattered to her.